All right, so I am making a video of myself, which I have not done since like undergrad when I had to for a class. But I wanted to do this one because it's a helpful way for me to process. Typically, I am a writer. I will type things down, I will write about it, and that is a great way for me to process. Right now, I don't know what it is, but like I just do not have the mental energy to do that. So here we are. I also wanted to do this because I'm having surgery next week. The video is all about my knee. Surprise, surprise. But I'm having surgery next week, and it is an incredibly rare procedure. And so there's not a lot of information on it. I have not been able to find people who have had this done, with the exception of like one person's son. And so I wanted to make this just in case there are other people now or in the future who are also going to have this same procedure, just so we can have some community. Because there's nothing out there right now. So essentially, to catch people up, it was probably 2023, I think I did a blog post called like the Daily Ballet of Beautiful Suffering. And it was basically detailing my knee journey up until that point. And so the long story short is, if you don't want to read that, because it is long, it is a lengthy thing. This is going to be a lengthy video probably too. But the long story short is that in April of 2021, I had a failed outcome to a lateral release procedure. And so up until that time, I had seen, I think at that point it was 5 surgeons, and one had told me it might be complex regional pain syndrome. He also said that he didn't really agree with that though, and so I didn't fit the characteristics of that too well. And so then he suggested like maybe we need to reverse the surgery, but he wasn't too certain, so he referred me on to another guy. And these are like, that one was at the University of Minnesota. He referred me to a provider at Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and that provider said, oh, I actually think the surgery needs to be redone. And then we also need to like cut your patella. I think actually the first guy said cut my patella. The second guy said he thought he needed to redo the lateral release and it wasn't released enough. He then referred me on to another Mayo provider, and that provider said, there's nothing we can do for you, return to PT, it's just chronic pain. And he sent me to a pain medicine provider. That appointment with that pain medicine provider was, it was something, not great. I can't even talk about it without getting like super angry, so I'm not going to. But essentially what came of all of that is that the focus was then going to be, okay, if this is more of a pain related thing, let's push through pain and see what happens. And so in 2023, I think it was summer of 2023 maybe, whenever I made this post, I felt really hopeful. Like I had researched everything I could about chronic pain. I knew so much about it. I knew the science behind it, like everything. And I was like, okay, let's go. You know, it supported what my physical therapist had hypothesized at that time, and I like really trust him. And so I was like, okay, if he thinks this is right and this provider is saying this and they still 5 surgeons can't find anything, fine, let's do it this way. And so then I just really started like pushing myself through pain. I called it my fuck around and find out time, which has since taken on different meanings, but I'm gonna step off that right now. So essentially during this time, I like went really hard. Like I strength trained nonstop. Well, I strength trained 5 days a week. I was walking every chance I could get. And I just was like, all right, if they think this is pain, let's go. Like I can handle that, right? And to be fair, that was very helpful, but then we hit a wall. So it was helpful in getting me like more desensitized and giving me some functioning back to like, okay, I can walk now. I did this thing where every year I was walking 3 minutes and 48 seconds and 42, like 3 hours, 48 minutes and 42 seconds or something stupidly absurd. And I did that for like 2 or 3 years and try to just like improve upon that. I couldn't do it this past year because as my luck would have it, I had like a bone bruise on my right heel, and that just took so long to recover from. And then now we're here where my knees are shit. So that has not been the focus. So anyway, the pain hypothesis, working with that, it was helpful. And then we hit that wall where like I was plateauing. I plateaued. I was not making progress. I was not building strength. I did formal strength testing. This was this year, and found just how weak and how atrophied my left quad was. Right quad, not great. Left, really bad, not great. So then I ended up like talking to my former coach and essentially quitting my gym membership, which was really hard for me to do. But I also was like, I need a leg press because I'm not able to build strength in my quad and I don't know what else to do. And so I was pretty hopeless when I met with him, and he was able to like balance empathy and warmth and help me find motivation, essentially, to keep trying to find anyone to help me. And so that inspired me to do a Google search, and like world-renowned knee surgeons, let's go. Like wherever they are located, I would go there. Turns out there is one in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He used to practice in Vail, Colorado. And now like people from all over the world come to see this guy. And I was like, wow, this guy has been here the whole time and I had no idea. And so I had to jump through hoops to see him, one of which was like having an assessment done by his former fellow who now practices in Fargo. And I like really liked him. However, he thought the same thing about like maybe my knee, the surgery needed to be reversed, but then ultimately didn't feel confident enough in some of the data that we had tried to collect. He didn't feel confident enough in pursuing that direction. So that was like a huge blow to me, really devastating. It was really hard. That was May of earlier this year. And I took that really hard. And so a month later, I was still trying to figure out like, who can help, whatever. And I had messaged him and was just asking about like, what are the options for any sort of dynamic imaging? Like there's gotta be something in this area, in the state. I will go anywhere for this imaging. And he was like, there's really not though. Like there's really not those options. But he did tell me that he was gonna be like, if I wanted help in still seeing the provider in the cities, that he would help facilitate that for me, which is just a really kind and neat thing that like a surgeon would be willing to do that and recognize like he might be missing something. I think a lot of surgeons, anyway, I won't even go down that path, but long story short, so I ended up getting an appointment with the guy in the cities, and he has a surgical option for me. I was so nervous going into it because I thought it was going to be another appointment where it was like, there's nothing we can do, go back to your PT, which, side note, what a dump job on my physical therapist. Basically saying like, we don't know what it is, we don't know what can help you, we know that like you're not gaining strength, and we know that the things that would help you gain strength cause you pain and you can't do them. But you know what? Go back to your PT and like be his problem. And my PT has been so gracious in like letting me be his problem. So anyway, I had this appointment, and essentially what this guy, he is surgeon number 7, lucky number 7. We're gonna look at it that way. Essentially what he thinks is that it did not take him long. He essentially thinks that my patella was over released in that original procedure. And so in order to correct it, like essentially because of that, my kneecap has been partially dislocating, the whole time, which explains a lot of things, right? Like when I would tell providers, like, it feels like my kneecap is not attached to the rest of my body, they would listen to me and then they would continue on with their next thought, which is not a great feeling. And so this guy actually had an explanation for that, right? Like, then I was like, I didn't know my kneecap was partially dislocating, but I can tell you, I know what it feels like. At least if that's what's happening, I can tell you what this feels like. So, and this was also helpful. I should mention too, my physical therapist here had really been helpful in me getting like the verbiage to try to explain what he has observed, right? So like one of those things was, I can do like hamstring and glute focused exercises. Like I can do RDLs, I can do deadlifts, I can do like hamstring curls. I can do those things without much pain, right? Anything that causes me to activate my quad, so like squats, lunges, wall sits, I'm trying to think of other things that act like leg extensions, the fucking leg extensions, but leg extensions, anything that activates my quad, that is where I have a lot of pain. That is where, like, after I do a wall sit, my knee does not feel right. And so now, like, he was able to give me the verbiage. So then when I went to this guy in the cities, I was able to say, hey, here's what I've noticed. Here's what my PT has noticed. Help me. And so that's when he came in and he was like, I think this is what happened. And essentially, so backstory on the lateral release procedure, this procedure has been it's an outdated practice and has been since the 1990s. Like there's data and research as early as the 1970s where people notice, there's a lot of failed outcomes because of this problem of it being aggressively over-released and then being pretty disabling to folks. And so, so that's some greater context. And I have like some anger towards the original surgeon for doing what is now seen as an outdated practice, and one that like they only use in extreme circumstances now, and usually it's in conjunction with other procedures too. So I definitely have some emotions about that. But you know what, like, whatever. That's dead, that's buried. I guess it emphasizes the importance of like staying up to date with the latest research. That said, the original surgeon, like 8 months away from retirement, but still, this isn't new research. This is like research from decades ago still. Anyway, where my anger comes in more than anything though, is that how in 4.5 years, including the original surgeon, like this is a known complication. Like how did people not figure this out? And how was no one confident enough to say this is what we think it is? And instead I became this hot potato that they would pass around, right? Like, I don't want to touch this person. I think it might be this, but let's pass you along to someone else who's going to have a completely opposite opinion and assessment. So like that whole process just sucked, right? But I think my anger and my resentment is more along the lines of like, how did no one know this despite it being such a common occurrence? And one of the most highly cited reasons for why lateral release procedures are no longer recommended. I think that says a lot, right? At least to me it does. But I also have some anger and resentment towards myself for not looking into it that thoroughly beforehand, right? I had known friends who had the procedure done, and they had great results when they were in high school and like college. But further than that, I like blindly trusted this surgeon. And I am such a research person. Like I love journal articles. My nickname in undergrad was CC for cranial capacity because I'm so nerdy. So I have some resentment towards myself for like, former self, why did you not do your due diligence and research everything you could about this procedure? Because at the very least, like even a superficial cursory glance would have revealed this common complication, and I would have been able to have a pause. Or I would have been able to seek a second opinion or any of these things. But all of that stuff, whatever, it's in the past. There's nothing I can do about it now. I accept what's happened, right? I didn't think about that, and what's happened, what's done is done. The great irony right now, and the reason for this video, is that the procedure I'm having done, it is a lateral patellotibial ligament reconstruction. There's nothing on it. There's one article from 2014 that is co-authored by the surgeon that will be performing my procedure. And so there's articles on like related procedures like the lateral patellofemoral ligament reconstruction and the medial patellofemoral ligament reconstruction, which is more common, I think. There's articles and there's research and there's data on those procedures. But the specific one I'm having, there's that one article from 2014 and nothing else, like nothing else. And so now my brain is firing again, and I'm like, okay, my brain's online. Let's dig into the research. Let's look into what we can reasonably expect. And there's nothing. And so I have been that patient, and I emailed my surgeon to see, do you have other research articles on this? Like, all I found is your paper from 2014. Can you send anything else my way? Is there anything else out there? So far, I have not heard back. I'm being that patient, but I think I owe it to myself, and I think I deserve to be able to have as much information as possible given to me that I can like look into on my own about this procedure. And right now, at least on the internet and like search databases, there's nothing except that one 2014 article. So we will see. That's just the irony here. So I've also been trying to look into like trying to find people who have had this procedure done, and all I've been able to find is like one person's son who had it done like last year from a different surgeon. And there's like a handful of surgeons, I think, who probably even know how to do this procedure. But like she at least reports that her son is doing better. I also was able to get in contact with someone who had left a review on the Minneapolis surgeon's one of his accounts or social media pages, and was able to get in touch with him. He's not having he didn't have the procedure I had done, but he had a similar procedure. So he said he's gotten like 70% of his functioning back. So I have some hopes that this will help. I do appreciate that the surgeon was pretty transparent with me about like this surgery is unlikely to resolve all of my symptoms or my pain, but he was confident that he could at least restore some of my functioning, which, given that my leg has essentially been operating as a peg, my bar is really low. Like, if you can get me walking right now without pain, awesome. If I can like bike without pain, awesome. If I can do any of these things without pain, I might not ever run again, fine, but like if I could even hike again, that would be great. But anyway, I wanted to create this video, one, just to catch folks up, even though there's probably like no one who will actually watch this, and I don't blame anyone because it's going to be really long. But two, just because if there's other people out there who might be having the lateral patellotibial ligament reconstruction, hopefully I can be someone else that someone can turn to, because again, the information out there is sparse. So we will see. Surgery is next Tuesday. I am dreading it because there's just a lot of reasons, but surgery is next Tuesday. We're gonna hope for the best. It's gonna be a pretty steep climb for me in terms of rehab afterwards because my left quad has atrophied so much. But we will see. For now, we wait and we hope for the best.